Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Recognition. The gun barrel felt cold against Angelo Mills' temple as he knelt in the dim alley behind Mickey's bar. Rain had been threatening all evening, and now fat drops began to splatter against the brick walls, mixing with the stench of garbage and stale beer. The masked man behind him breathed heavily, his grip on the weapon surprisingly unsteady for someone in his profession. "Your wife says hello," the gunman said, his voice muffled by the black ski mask. Angelo remained perfectly still, his mind calculating distances and angles with the precision that had kept him alive through 12 years of black operations. The man was nervous. Amateur hour. As he was forced to his knees, Angelo's shirt sleeve rode up, revealing the distinctive tattoo that marked him as property of a place that officially didn't exist. The gunman froze. The weapon trembled against Angelo's skull. "You're the ghost of cell block 8?" he stammered, lowering his weapon as if it had suddenly become red hot. Angelo's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. The ghost. It had been 7 years since anyone had called him that. 7 years since he'd walked away from the shadows and tried to build a normal life with Sophia and their daughter Jennifer. 7 years of pretending to be just another suburban husband working in private security. The hitman, now visibly shaking, pulled out his phone with trembling fingers. "Man, I didn't know. She didn't tell me." He showed Angelo the screen, a text message thread that made Angelo's blood run ice cold. "Sophia, make it look like a robbery. Clean job. Next target is his daughter. Sophia, she gets home from school at 3:30. Black Honda, license plate JMK 4457. Sophia, $50,000 bonus if you make it look like an accident." Angelo stared at the messages, each word carving deeper into his chest than any blade ever had. Sophia, his wife of 15 years. The woman who'd held him through nightmares about places that couldn't be found on any map. The mother of his child. "Listen, Ghost," the hitman said, backing away. "I didn't sign up for this. I mean, the wife thing, sure, but a kid? And you." He gestured helplessly. "Everyone knows the stories. Cell Block 8. The cleaner. The man who broke Kozlov without laying a finger on him." Angelo stood slowly, his movements fluid despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "What's your name?" "Daryl. Daryl Blackburn." "Look, I'll give the money back. All of it. Just, we never met, okay?" Angelo studied the younger man. Mid-30s, military bearing, probably special forces before going private. Good enough to take out civilians, not good enough to research his targets properly. "Set up a meeting with my wife," Angelo said quietly. "Tell her the job is done, but that there were complications. You need to meet in person to collect the remainder of your fee." Daryl nodded eagerly. Yeah, I can do that." "When?" "Tomorrow night. Pier 47, Warehouse District, 11 p.m. Angelo's voice carried the weight of authority that had once commanded rooms full of killers. "Daryl." "Yes, sir." Today was Sophia's last day breathing freely. She just doesn't know it yet. As Daryl hurried away into the rain, Angelo remained in the alley, letting the water wash over him. The suburban husband was dead. The ghost of Cell Block 8 had work to do. Chapter 2. Ghosts and Foundations. Angelo's house sat in the pristine suburb of Willowbrook like a picture from a home magazine. White picket fence, manicured lawn, two-car garage. The American dream made manifest. As he pulled into the driveway at 11:47 p.m., he could see the glow of the television through the living room window. Sophia would be watching her late-night crime shows, probably texting Clay Noble between commercial breaks. Clay Noble. The name tasted like poison in Angelo's mind. Sophia's tennis instructor turned lover. A pretty boy with soft hands and softer morals who had no idea what he'd stumbled into when he decided to seduce Angelo Mills' wife. Angelo sat in his car for a moment, studying the house he'd bought with blood money from contracts the government would never acknowledge. Inside those walls, his daughter Jennifer was sleeping, unaware that her own mother had put a price on her head. The rage that filled Angelo was cold and methodical, the kind that had once reduced hardened war criminals to sobbing confessions. He entered through the front door, his key turning silently in the lock. A skill from the old days. "Angelo," Sophia's voice called from the living room. "You're late." "How was work? How was work?" Angelo almost laughed. If she only knew. He found her curled up on the couch in silk pajamas, looking beautiful and innocent. Her blonde hair fell in waves over her shoulders, and her green eyes held just the right amount of concern. She was good at this, the performance of being a loving wife. She'd been practicing for months. "Rough day," he said, settling into his recliner. "Johnson's still having problems with those gang threats. Had to work late on security assessments." It wasn't entirely a lie. His private security firm did handle corporate clients, though most of Angelo's real work came from a very different clientele. People who needed problems to disappear permanently. "Poor baby," Sophia said, muting the TV. "You work too hard. Maybe you should take some time off. We could visit my sister in Florida. Take Jennifer to Disney World." Angelo studied his wife's face, looking for tells. The slight tension around her eyes. The way she touched her wedding ring when she lied. "All there." "Maybe," he said. "Sophia, is everything okay between us?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. For just a moment, her mask slipped, and he saw something like guilt flicker across her features. "Of course, honey. Why would you ask that?" "Just wondering. You seem distant lately, like you're somewhere else." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "I'm right here, Angelo. Always have been, always will be." The lie hung in the air between them like smoke. Angelo nodded and smiled, playing his part in their mutual deception. "I'm going to check on Jennifer," he said, standing. His daughter's room was exactly as it should be. A 16-year-old's organized chaos of school books, band posters, and the detritus of teenage life. Jennifer lay sleeping peacefully, her dark hair spread across the pillow. She had Angelo's eyes and chin, but Sophia's delicate features. Looking at her now, Angelo felt something crack inside his chest. Jennifer was innocent in all this. Whatever happened next, she couldn't be collateral damage. He returned to the living room to find Sophia texting on her phone. She quickly put it away when she saw him. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Just coordinating with the school fundraiser committee. You know how demanding Melinda Mason can be." Another lie, smooth as silk. Angelo nodded and headed upstairs. "I'm going to shower and get some sleep. Long day tomorrow." In their bedroom, he opened his laptop and accessed files that officially didn't exist. Background checks on Clay Noble revealed exactly what Angelo expected. A trust fund playboy who'd burned through his inheritance and now survived by giving tennis lessons to bored housewives. He'd been married twice, both wives filing for divorce, citing infidelity. More interesting was Clay's connection to Eric Peters, a low-level criminal with ties to money laundering operations. Clay wasn't just cheating with Sophia. He was planning to rob Angelo blind and disappear with his wife. Angelo's phone buzzed. A text from Daryl. "Meeting set. Tomorrow, 11 p.m. She's bringing someone." "Perfect." Angelo smiled as he began to make preparations. The ghost of Cell Block 8 had been dormant for 7 years, but he hadn't forgotten how to hunt. Chapter 3. The Lover's Gambit. Clay Noble's apartment overlooked the harbor from the expensive side of downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows, designer furniture, and a wine collection that cost more than most people's cars. All of it purchased with money from wealthy women who thought they were buying his exclusive attention. Angelo watched from across the street through military-grade binoculars as Clay paced his living room, phone pressed to his ear. Even from this distance, Angelo could read his agitation in the tension of his shoulders, the sharp gestures he made with his free hand. At 2:17 p.m., Sophia's BMW pulled into the building's parking garage. Angelo had been watching for 3 hours, learning Clay's patterns, identifying exit routes, cataloging security measures. Old habits. Sophia emerged from the elevator 20 minutes later, her hair disheveled, her lipstick gone. She was glowing with post-coital satisfaction and the thrill of deception. Angelo felt nothing watching her leave except a cold, clinical detachment. The woman he'd loved was gone, if she'd ever existed at all. His phone rang. Daryl's number. She wants to move the meeting up, Daryl said without preamble. Tonight, 9 o'clock. Same place. Why? Didn't say. But she's spooked about something. Kept asking if I was sure you were dead. Wanted details about the scene. Angelo considered this. Sophia was getting nervous, which meant she was making mistakes. Good. Did she mention Jennifer? Yeah, actually. Said the job on the kid needed to happen tomorrow, before the funeral arrangements got too complicated. The casual way Daryl delivered those words, the job on the kid, sent ice through Angelo's veins. His own wife, planning their daughter's murder with the same detachment she might use to schedule a hair appointment. Any change in payment? She's bringing the full amount tonight. 50 grand for you, another 50 for the girl. Cash. After ending the call, Angelo drove to his office, a nondescript building that housed Mill Security Services. His legitimate business employed 12 people and generated enough income to maintain his suburban facade. But in the basement, behind a door-marked storage, lay the tools of his true trade. The room looked like something from a spy movie: weapons racks, surveillance equipment, false identification documents. Angelo selected items carefully: night vision goggles, a suppress .45, zip ties, and a small leather case containing syringes filled with various pharmaceutical solutions. At 6 p.m., he called Jennifer's school. This is Angelo Mills, Jennifer's father. I need to pick her up early today. Family emergency. Of course, Mr. Mills. Should we have her meet you in the office? Actually, I'm running late. Could you ask her to wait at the coffee shop across from school? I'll text her the details. 20 minutes later, Angelo watched his daughter through the coffee shop window. Jennifer was beautiful at 16, but she carried herself with a confidence that reminded him of Sophia before the masks had taken over. She was texting friends, laughing at something on her phone, completely unaware that her world was about to implode. Angelo entered the shop and approached her table. Dad, what's wrong? The school said there was an emergency. There is, sweetheart, but not the kind they think. Angelo sat across from her, noting how her expression shifted from confusion to concern. Jennifer, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Your life depends on it. He told her everything. Not the details of his past. She wasn't ready for that, but the immediate threat. Her mother's betrayal. The contract on both their lives. The man who'd been hired to kill them. Jennifer's face went through a kaleidoscope of emotions. Disbelief, horror, anger, and finally, a hardness that reminded Angelo too much of himself. Mom really wants us dead? Yes. For money. Money and freedom. She's planning to disappear with Clay Noble. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee cup. When she looked up, her eyes held a fury that made Angelo proud and heartbroken simultaneously. What do? We survive, and then we make them pay. At 8:45 p.m., Angelo positioned Jennifer in a secure location 3 blocks from Pier 47, a safe house he'd maintained for years. She had a secure phone, enough cash to disappear if things went wrong, and instructions to contact a man named Wesley Galvin if Angelo didn't return by morning. Dad, she said as he prepared to leave, when this is over, what happens to us? Angelo looked at his daughter, brave, strong, and now forced to grow up far too quickly because of Sophia's choices. We start over, he said. Just us. The way it should have been from the beginning. Chapter 4. The Meeting. Pier 47 squatted on the waterfront like a cancer, its abandoned warehouses and rusted infrastructure perfect for the kind of business that thrived in shadows. Angelo arrived at 8:30, giving himself 30 minutes to prepare the battlefield. Warehouse 7 sat at the end of the pier, its broken windows like dead eyes staring out at the harbor. Angelo moved through the building like smoke, placing cameras, setting traps, creating kill zones and escape routes. The ghost was fully awake now, and this was his natural habitat. At 8:58, headlights swept across the warehouse entrance. Sophia's BMW, followed by a silver Mercedes that Angelo recognized as Clay's car. They were early, nervous, making amateur mistakes. Angelo watched from the shadows of the warehouse rafters as Sophia and Clay entered the building. Daryl was already there, standing nervously near a stack of shipping containers. His posture screamed inexperience and fear. Sophia looked beautiful even here, in this place of rust and decay. She wore dark jeans and a black leather jacket, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. She carried herself with confidence, but Angelo could read the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes constantly moved, searching for threats. Clay Noble was exactly what Angelo had expected. Handsome in a soft, pampered way, wearing expensive clothes that looked absurd in the warehouse setting. He stayed close to Sophia, one hand resting on her lower back in a gesture of possession that made Angelo's jaw clench. "Is it done?" Sophia asked without preamble. Daryl nodded, pulling out his phone. "Yeah, but there were complications. Your husband, he wasn't what I expected." "What do you mean?" Clay stepped forward, his voice sharp with anxiety. "I mean, he fought back. Hard. Had to get creative with the scene to make it look like a robbery." Angelo smiled grimly. Daryl was better at this than he'd given him credit for. Sophia relaxed slightly. "And the body?" "Harbor. Weighted down. Won't surface." Daryl paused. "About the kid, though. What about her?" Sophia's voice went cold. 50 grand for a 16-year-old girl? That's serious heat if this goes sideways." Clay laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "She's not just any 16-year-old. Jennifer knows things. About Angelo's work, his connections. She's smart enough to put pieces together that could bury us all." Angelo felt something dark and primal rise in his chest. They weren't just planning to kill Jennifer for money. They were eliminating her as a witness to whatever they thought they knew about his activities. "The girl dies tomorrow," Sophia said flatly. "I don't care how you do it. Just make it look accidental. Car crash, drowning, whatever. Just get it done." "You're talking about your own daughter," Daryl said, and for a moment Angelo felt a flicker of respect for the hired killer. Sophia's laugh was ice cold. "She's Angelo's daughter. I never wanted kids. That was all him, playing house, pretending we were a normal family. Well, now I'm free to live my own life." Clay moved closer to her, possessive and proud. "We both are. Once this is finished, we disappear. New identities, new life. Maybe somewhere tropical." Angelo had heard enough. He dropped from the rafters silently, landing in the shadows behind the shipping containers. The ghost moved through the darkness like death itself, positioning himself perfectly. 50,000, Sophia said, pulling a duffel bag from her BMW. "Half now, half when it's done." "About that," Angelo said, stepping into the light. 3 heads snapped toward him in perfect unison. Sophia's face went white. Clay stumbled backward, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Daryl reached for his gun and found Angelo's .45 already pointed at his chest. "Hello, darling," Angelo said to his wife. "We need to talk." Chapter 5. Truth and Consequences. The warehouse fell into absolute silence except for the sound of water lapping against the pier outside. Angelo kept his weapon trained on Daryl while his eyes never left Sophia's face. She'd gone through shock and was now calculating, her mind racing through possibilities and escape routes. "Angelo," she said, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "Thank God you're alive. This man kidnapped me, forced me to—" "Stop." Angelo's voice cut through her lies like a blade. "I heard everything, Sophia. Your own words. Jennifer is my daughter, not yours. You never wanted kids. Ring any bells?" Clay found his voice. "Look, man, this isn't what it looks like." Sophia was just. Angelo shifted his aim to Clay's chest. "I wasn't talking to you." The tennis instructor shut up immediately. Daryl raised his hands slowly. "Ghost, I want no part of this. This is between you and them." "Smart man." Angelo reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope, tossing it to Daryl. "Consider this a consulting fee. You helped me learn something important about my wife." Daryl caught the envelope, looked inside, and his eyes widened. "This is 25,000 for services rendered. Now disappear." Daryl didn't need to be told twice. He pocketed the money and headed for the exit, pausing only to look back at Sophia and Clay with something that might have been pity. "You two have no idea what you've done," he said, then vanished into the night. Now, it was just the three of them in the warehouse. Husband, wife, and lover. Angelo lowered his weapon, but didn't holster it. 15 years, Sophia. 15 years, I gave you everything. A home, security, a child. I walked away from a life that paid 10 times what I make now because you said you wanted normal. You wanted safe. And boring, Sophia shot back, her mask finally slipping completely. God, Angelo, do you have any idea what it's like being married to a ghost? You think I don't know what you really do? Those business trips that last for weeks? The way you wake up screaming from nightmares you won't talk about. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. Her voice echoed off the warehouse walls. From having to be a real person instead of some legend from your past. The ghost of Cell Block 8. Even the name sounds like something from a comic book. Clay stepped closer to Sophia, emboldened by her anger. She deserves better than living with a has-been killer who can't let go of his glory days. Angelo studied Clay Noble with the same detachment he'd once used to evaluate targets. Soft, weak, but with enough arrogance to think he could take another man's life and wife without consequences. Glory days? Angelo asked quietly. Is that what you think they were? Without warning, he moved. In one fluid motion, Angelo crossed the distance between them and put Clay in a chokehold, the gun pressed against his temple. Cell Block 8 wasn't a prison, Angelo whispered in Clay's ear. It was a laboratory. They kept the worst of the worst there, war criminals, terrorists, dictators. My job was to break them without leaving marks. To find the exact psychological pressure points that would make a man tell me anything I wanted to know. Clay struggled weakly, but Angelo's grip was iron. 15 years I've been retired from that work. 15 years I've tried to be the suburban husband she wanted. But you know what, Clay? Some skills never fade. Sophia watched with growing horror as Angelo's grip tightened around Clay's throat. Tell me, pretty boy, what's your greatest fear? Everyone has one. The thing that wakes them up in cold sweats. The thought that makes them check the locks twice before bed. Please, Clay gasped. I'm sorry. We'll leave. We'll disappear. You'll never see us again. Angelo laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. Oh, but you already tried to disappear. After you killed me and my daughter. Remember? He released Clay, who collapsed to his knees, gasping. The thing is, Angelo continued, I might have let you walk away if you just wanted to steal my wife. Marriage is a contract, and contracts can be broken. But you involved Jennifer. You put a price on my daughter's head. Angelo turned to Sophia. And you, my beloved wife, you didn't just want out of our marriage. You wanted me and Jennifer dead. Not divorced, dead. That suggests a level of planning that goes beyond simple infidelity. Sophia lifted her chin defiantly. You want to know the truth? Fine. Clay and I have been planning this for 8 months. We know about your offshore accounts, your safe deposit boxes, your real estate holdings. We know you're worth at least $3 million, probably more. So this was about money. It was about freedom. Sophia exploded. Freedom from pretending to love a man who's more ghost than human. Freedom from raising a daughter who looks at me like I'm some kind of failure because I'm not as perfect as her precious daddy. Angelo absorbed this, filing away each word like evidence in a case file. Jennifer looks at you like that because you've been lying to her for 8 months while planning to murder her. She would have figured it out eventually, Clay said, struggling to his feet. Smart kids always do. She would have put together the pieces about what happened to you, and then we'd have spent the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. Angelo nodded slowly. You're right about one thing. Jennifer is smart. Smart enough to know that her mother stopped loving her long before she started planning to kill her. Chapter 6, The Hunter's Game. Angelo walked to the warehouse windows and looked out at the harbor. The lights of the city reflected on the dark water like fallen stars, beautiful and cold. Behind him, Sophia and Clay whispered to each other, probably planning their next move. They still thought this was a negotiation. I have a proposition, Angelo said without turning around. What kind of proposition? Sophia asked cautiously. A game. The kind I used to play in the old days when I needed information from people who thought they were smarter than me. He turned back to face them. Clay had his arm around Sophia protectively, as if he could shield her from what was coming. Here's how it works. I'm going to give you both a head start. 12 hours. You can run anywhere you want, use any resources you have. But you can't leave the city, and you can't contact anyone for help. After 12 hours, I start hunting. You're insane, Clay said. Maybe, but I'm also giving you something you didn't give me, a chance to survive. More than you were planning to give Jennifer. Sophia stepped forward. What do you get out of this? What's the point? Angelo smiled, and for the first time since entering the warehouse, he looked genuinely pleased. Simple. If you can evade me for 7 days, I'll transfer $2 million to an account of your choosing and disappear from your lives forever. You'll never see me again, and neither will Jennifer. And if you catch us, then you pay for what you plan to do to my daughter. Clay looked at Sophia, hope flickering in his eyes. $2 million, sophomore. We could disappear anywhere in the world with that kind of money. But Sophia was studying Angelo's face, looking for the trap she knew had to be there. What aren't you telling us? She asked. I'm telling you everything you need to know. 12-hour head start, 7 days to stay free, $2 million if you succeed. And Jennifer is safe, has been since this afternoon. Angelo's expression hardened. Unlike the mother who want her dead, I actually protect my child. Sophia flinched as if he'd slapped her. Clock starts now, Angelo said, checking his watch. It's 11:43 p.m. You have until 11:43 tomorrow night to prepare. Then the game begins. Clay grabbed Sophia's hand. We need to go. Now, get whatever cash we have and... Wait. Sophia was still staring at Angelo. Why are you doing this? You could just kill us right here. No witnesses, no complications. Angelo was quiet for a long moment, considering his answer. Because I want you to understand what it feels like to be hunted. To know that someone is coming for you. And that running only delays the inevitable. I want you to experience the fear you were planning to inflict on Jennifer. You bastard, Sophia whispered. Yes, Angelo agreed. But I'm your bastard. Made that way by 15 years of loving a woman who was planning to murder me and our child for money. Clay pulled Sophia toward the exit. Come on, we're wasting time. At the warehouse door, Sophia turned back one final time. This won't bring back what we had, Angelo. Even if you win, even if you destroy us, we can't go back to being a family. Angelo nodded. No, we can't. But Jennifer and I can build something new. Something honest. Something without you in it. After they left, Angelo remained in the warehouse for another hour planning. The game he described was real, but like everything else in his world, it wasn't what it appeared to be on the surface. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number from memory. Wesley, it's Angelo. I need a favor. Wesley Galvin's voice was gravelly with sleep. Ghost? Jesus, it's been 5 years? I thought you were completely out of the life. I was. Until tonight. I need surveillance on 2 targets. Sophia Mills and Clay Noble. Full coverage, electronic, physical, financial. Everything. How deep do you want me to go? Angelo looked out at the harbor where his wife and her lover thought they were beginning their escape. Deep enough to bury them. Chapter 7. The Trap Springs. Jennifer sat in the safe house, staring at the secure phone her father had given her. It had been 18 hours since their conversation at the coffee shop, and she hadn't heard from him since. The silence was eating at her alive. The safe house was a modest apartment above a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown, furnished with the basics and stocked with enough supplies to last a week. Angelo had prepared this place years ago, back when Jennifer was too young to understand why her father sometimes needed to disappear for days at a time. Now she understood. Her father was the ghost of Cell Block 8, whatever that meant. And her mother, the woman who'd sung her lullabies and attended every school play, had tried to have them both killed. The secure phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your father wants you to know the game has begun. Stay where you are. W. Jennifer stared at the message. The game? What game? Her regular phone, which she'd turned off per Angelo's instructions, showed 17 missed calls from Sophia. Her mother was trying to reach her, probably wondering why she wasn't home from school. Jennifer almost felt sorry for her until she remembered the conversation in the warehouse that her father had recorded and played for her. She's Angelo's daughter. I never wanted kids. The words still cut like broken glass. At 11:47 p.m., 4 minutes after Angelo's 12-hour deadline, Jennifer's secure phone rang. "Dad, it's Wesley Galvin, kid. Friend of your father's. He asked me to keep you updated on the situation." Jennifer had never heard of Wesley Galvin, but her father had mentioned that name as an emergency contact. "Where is he?" "Tracking your mother and her boyfriend. They lasted exactly 6 hours before making their first major mistake." "What did they do?" Wesley chuckled, a sound that held no humor. "Used a credit card. Rookie error. Your father knew they would. Most people can't survive on cash alone for very long, and desperate people make stupid choices." Through the window, Jennifer could see the lights of the city. Somewhere out there, her father was hunting the woman who'd given birth to her. The thought should have horrified her, but instead she felt something cold and satisfied settle in her chest. "Is he going to kill them?" "That's between your father and his conscience, kid. But I can tell you this. Clay Noble has a gambling debt to some very unpleasant people. The kind who break kneecaps for fun. And your mother just withdrew $50,000 from your father's emergency account." Jennifer processed this information. She's going to pay off Clay's debts. Smart girl. "Yeah, that's our thinking too. They're at the Riverside Casino right now, probably thinking they can hide in the crowd while Clay settles his accounts. Can Dad get to them there?" "Honey, your father could get to them in the middle of a SWAT team convention, but he's not going to move yet. He wants them to think they're safe first. Let them get comfortable. Start believing they might actually escape. And then the ghost reminds them why that name used to give hardened killers nightmares." After ending the call, Jennifer found herself thinking about her mother. Not the woman who'd tried to have her killed, but the one who'd taught her to braid her hair and helped with homework. Had that person ever been real, or had it all been an elaborate performance? Her phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. "Your mother is asking questions about you. School, friends, usual haunts. Stay dark. Don't contact anyone you know. W." Jennifer turned off both phones and walked to the window. The city stretched out below her like a circuit board, all glowing connections and hidden pathways. Somewhere in that maze, her father was playing a game that would determine whether she had any family left when the sun rose. She thought about Sophia's words in the warehouse. She would have figured it out eventually. Smart kids always do. They were right about one thing. She was smart. Smart enough to piece together things her parents thought she'd never notice. The way Angelo sometimes came home with cuts and bruises he couldn't explain. The phone calls he took in the basement, speaking languages she didn't recognize. The fact that their house had security measures that went far beyond normal suburban paranoia. But she was also smart enough to know that her father had never lied to her about the important things. He'd never pretended to be something he wasn't. He just protected her from knowing what he really was. Sophia, on the other hand, had built their entire relationship on deception. Jennifer made her decision. When this was over, she would ask her father to teach her everything. About his past, his skills, his world. If loving Angelo Mills meant accepting the ghost of Cell Block 8, then that's what she would do. Unlike her mother, Jennifer didn't run from the truth. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. The Riverside Casino never truly slept. Even at 3 a.m., the slot machines chimed their electronic lullabies, and dedicated gamblers fed money into the mechanical mouths that would never be full. Angelo watched from a security office on the second floor as Sophia and Clay moved through the poker room below. They thought they were being careful. Clay had changed clothes and was wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Sophia had dyed her hair brown and was dressed in jeans and a sweater that made her look younger, more ordinary. Amateur disguises that might fool a casual observer, but meant nothing to a man who'd once tracked war criminals across 3 continents. "Your boy's down about 30 grand, said Morris Fisher, the casino's head of security. Morris was an old friend who'd worked private military contracts with Angelo in the years before Cell Block 8. He owed Angelo his life twice over, which made him uniquely motivated to cooperate. What about the men he owes money to? Francis Rosales and his crew are here. Been circling the poker room for the last hour like sharks. Your boy's girlfriend keeps feeding him cash, but it's not enough. He's playing scared money against professionals." Angelo nodded. Clay was trapped between the debt he owed and the men who'd kill him if he couldn't pay. Sophia was bleeding money, trying to keep him afloat, not realizing that scared gamblers always lost in the end. I need 10 minutes alone with them, Angelo said. Morris smiled grimly. I can arrange that. VIP room 7 is empty. I'll have my boys encourage them to take their game somewhere more private. 20 minutes later, Angelo entered VIP room 7 to find Sophia and Clay seated at a small table, looking exhausted and defeated. Clay's face was pale with sweat, and his hands shook as he counted what remained of their cash. Sophia looked up as Angelo closed the door behind him. "Hello, darling," he said. "How's the game going?" Clay lurched to his feet, knocking over his chair. "You said 12 hours. I gave you 12 hours to prepare. I never said I wouldn't be watching." Angelo sat across from Sophia, noting how she'd aged years in the span of a single day. "You used my emergency credit card. Rookie mistake. We needed cash. You needed to pay Clay's gambling debts. $67,000 to Francis Rosales and his associates. Money Clay borrowed to invest in a surefire business opportunity that turned out to be a scam." Sophia's face went white. "How do you know everything about your boyfriend's finances?" "Because I've been investigating him since the day you first mentioned his name 6 months ago. Clay Noble, 34 years old, trust fund baby who burned through his inheritance by age 28. 2 failed marriages, both wives citing financial irresponsibility and infidelity. Currently living off tennis lessons and the generosity of wealthy women." Angelo pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. On the screen was a detailed financial report showing Clay's debts, assets, and spending patterns. "Did you know he was already planning to leave you? Had a plane ticket to Costa Rica for next week. One way, no return date." Sophia looked at Clay, who couldn't meet her eyes. "Is that true?" Clay's silence was answer enough. Angelo continued. "The plan was simple. Convince you to help him pay off his debts, then disappear with whatever money was left. You were never going to Costa Rica with him, Sophia. You were just another mark." "You're lying," Sophia said, but her voice lacked conviction. Angelo tapped the tablet screen. "Account records don't lie. He's been wiring money to a bank in San Jose for 3 months. Enough to live comfortably for years." The betrayal hit Sophia like a physical blow. She turned to Clay with fury in her eyes. "You bastard. I destroyed my marriage for you. I was going to kill my own daughter. I never asked you to do that." Clay exploded. "That was your idea. You're the one who said Jennifer had to die." Angelo watched them turn on each other with the satisfaction of a chess master seeing his opponent's position collapse. This was what he'd learned in Cell Block 8, that the strongest bonds could be shattered by the right pressure applied at the right moment. "The thing about betrayers," Angelo said quietly, "is that they can never trust anyone because they know how easy it is to betray someone. Clay never loved you, Sophia. He was using you the same way you were using me." Sophia was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. "I gave up everything for him." "No," Angelo corrected. "You gave up everything for money. Clay was just the delivery system." The door opened, and Francis Rosales entered with 2 large men who looked like they bench-pressed motorcycles for fun. Francis was a small, well-dressed man with the kind of soft voice that made his threats seem even more dangerous. "Clay Noble," Francis said pleasantly. "You've been avoiding my calls." Clay shrank back in his chair. "Francis, I have your money. All of it. Right here." He gestured to the cash on the table, maybe $15,000. Francis smiled. "That's not enough, Clay. Not nearly enough. See, when a man avoids paying his debts, the interest compounds. Daily. You now owe me $93,000. I don't have $93,000. Then we have a problem." Angelo stood up. "Francis, good to see you again." Francis looked at Angelo with surprise that quickly turned to recognition and then to something approaching fear. "Angelo Mills, the ghost. I heard you'd retired." "I had, but family business brought me back." Francis nodded slowly, understanding passing between the 2 men. "This your family business?" "My wife and her boyfriend. They're having some relationship issues." Francis glanced at Sophia and Clay, then back at Angelo. After a moment, he smiled. "Well then, I suppose Mr. Noble's debt is between him and his associates now. Francis and his men left without another word, leaving the three of them alone again. You just saved Clay's life, Sophia said to Angelo. No, Angelo replied. I just decided how he's going to die. Chapter 9, Ghost Justice. The abandoned warehouse in the industrial district looked different in daylight. Where shadows had provided concealment the night before, now harsh sunlight streamed through broken windows, illuminating the rust and decay that time had carved into every surface. Angelo had brought Sophia and Clay here not for nostalgia, but because some things required the right setting. Justice, he'd learned long ago, was a performance that needed the proper stage. They sat tied to chairs in the center of the warehouse floor, 20 feet apart, close enough to see each other, but too far to touch. Angelo had spent the morning making preparations while they slept off the chloroform he'd used to transport them here. Old habits from the cell block 8 days. Sometimes you needed people unconscious and cooperative. Jennifer's safe, Angelo said, his voice echoing in the empty space. In case you were wondering, she's with friends who'll make sure she gets to college, gets to have the life you try to steal from her. Sophia tested her bonds and found them secure. She'll never forgive you for this, for what you're going to do to her mother. Her mother tried to have her killed. I think Jennifer's forgiveness is going to be in short supply where you're concerned. Clay had been quiet since waking up, but now he found his voice. Look, Ghost, I know I screwed up, but Sophia was the one who wanted you and the kid dead. I just wanted the money. Angelo studied Clay with clinical detachment. Even now, facing death, the man was trying to save himself by throwing others under the bus. That's true, Angelo said. But you agreed to it. You helped plan it. And you were going to abandon Sophia anyway once you got what you wanted. She was going to leave you. What difference does it make? Angelo pulled out his phone and played a recording. Clay's voice filled the warehouse. She would have figured it out eventually. Smart kids always do. She would have put together the pieces about what happened to you. And then we'd have spent the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. That's you, Clay, explaining why Jennifer had to die. Not for money, for your peace of mind. Clay's face went ashen. You recorded us? I record everything. Occupational hazard. Angelo put the phone away. The question now is what to do with both of you. Sophia lifted her chin defiantly. So do it. Kill us. Get your revenge. But don't pretend this is about justice. This is about your ego. Angelo considered this. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is about ego. But you know what? I can live with that. He walked to a table where he'd laid out several items. A gun, a knife, syringes filled with different colored liquids, and a small device that looked like a remote control. Cell Block 8 taught me that there are many ways to break a person. Physical pain is crude, inefficient. The mind is much more fragile than the body. Angelo picked up one of the syringes. This contains a paralytic agent. It won't kill you, but it will leave you completely helpless while remaining fully conscious. Perfect for someone who wants to watch and listen, but can't move or speak. He picked up another syringe. This one is more interesting. It's a synthetic compound that induces extreme paranoia and hallucinations. The subject becomes convinced that everyone around them is trying to kill them. They see threats everywhere, trust no one, live in constant terror. Sophia's eyes went wide. You're insane. I'm methodical. There's a difference. Angelo set down the syringes and picked up the gun. Of course, there's always the direct approach. Quick, clean, permanent. Clay was hyperventilating. Please, Ghost. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. You made choices, and choices have consequences. Angelo checked his watch. It's almost time. Time for what? Sophia asked. For justice. Or revenge. I'm still not sure there's a difference. The warehouse door opened, and Jennifer walked in, followed by Wesley Galvin and Morris Fisher. Jennifer looked older than her 16 years, her face set in hard lines that reminded Angelo of himself at that age. Jennifer, no, Sophia said. You don't need to see this. Jennifer walked to within 5 feet of her mother and stopped. See what? You're getting what you deserve. I'm still your mother. No. Jennifer's voice was ice cold. Mothers don't try to have their children killed. You're just the woman who gave birth to me. There's a difference. Angelo watched his daughter with pride and heartbreak. She was strong, stronger than he'd ever been at her age. But she was also harder now, and that was his fault as much as Sophia's. What do you want me to do? Angelo asked Jennifer. Jennifer looked at Clay, then at Sophia, then at her father. I want them to understand what it feels like to lose everything. The way they try to make us lose everything. Angelo nodded. Wesley Galvin stepped forward with a briefcase. Clay Noble, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and about 15 other felonies. Turns out the FBI has been investigating you for tax evasion and money laundering. Amazing how much evidence they can find when they know where to look. Clay's face crumpled. You can't do this. You're not cops. Wesley smiled and pulled out a badge. FBI, actually. I've been undercover for 3 years, working cases just like yours. Angelo turned to Sophia. As for you, my dear wife, you're about to discover that all those offshore accounts and safe deposit boxes you knew about, they're gone, emptied. The money transferred to various charities that help victims of domestic violence. Sophia stared at him in shock. That's our money. Jennifer's college fund is safe in an account you can't touch. Everything else, the house, the cars, the investments, all gone. You wanted to start over with nothing? Congratulations. You got your wish. Morris Fisher stepped forward with 2 other men in suits. Mrs. Mills, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent. As they read Sophia her rights, Angelo turned to Jennifer. Are you okay with this? Jennifer watched her mother being handcuffed. She gets to live. Clay gets to live. That's more mercy than they were going to show us. And after, when the trials are over and they're in prison. Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Then we start over. Just us. The way it should have been from the beginning. Angelo smiled. The first genuine smile he'd worn in days. That sounds perfect. As Sophia and Clay were led away, Sophia turned back one final time. This won't make you happy, Angelo. Destroying us won't fix what's broken inside you. Angelo considered this. Maybe not, but it'll do for now. After they were gone, Angelo and Jennifer stood alone in the warehouse. The sunlight streaming through the windows seemed brighter now, cleaner. Dad, Jennifer said, will you teach me? About your real work, I mean. About who you really are. Angelo looked at his daughter, brave, strong, and ready to accept the truth about her father's world. Are you sure that's what you want? Jennifer nodded. I want to understand. All of it. The good and the bad. Angelo put his arm around his daughter's shoulders, and together they walked toward the warehouse exit and whatever came next. Then we start tomorrow, he said. The ghost of Cell Block 8 has stories to tell. Behind them, the warehouse settled back into silence, keeping its secrets like all abandoned places do. But outside, in the bright afternoon sun, a father and daughter began the long process of building something new from the ashes of what had been destroyed. Some ghosts, Angelo thought, deserved to be laid to rest. Others deserved to live on, protecting the people who matter most. The ghost of Cell Block 8 would never truly die, but Angelo Mills had learned, finally, how to live. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen, and I'll see you there.